Once upon a time, Manuel Saldana and Emely Rodriguez find rare comfort in each other's arms.
This wedding was really the beginning of a new life for her.
Everybody loved him. Everybody that met him fell in love with him.
But just before their love is sealed together, they are pried apart by a shadowy figure with a gun.
I felt like if I was in a nightmare. It all happened so fast.
That was one of the most chaotic scenes I've ever been in. Screaming from everyone.
And the only thing I could remember her said, muerto, which means death.
For this couple, the honeymoon is over. It's a damp spring night in Monticello, New York. But it's toasty inside the home of Emely Rodriguez and Manuel Saldana the night before their wedding. Emely is 31, a single mother.
Oh, no. It was a happy family, you know, we were happy at that time. And I couldn't ask for anything more.
She's breathless with anticipation about marrying Manuel, her 28-year-old knight in shining armor, who has rescued her from a dark past. It's the beginning of a future she couldn't have imagined even a year ago.
My mom and I were cooking the Spanish tradition, you know, arroz con gandule and pernil and sauces and everything that we had.
As always, Manuel is doing his best to make Emely's dreams come true. Decorating for the reception with the help of family members who have traveled from all over to be part of the big day.
My brother was very, very, very happy. On the first floor, they had tables, and they were all covered with white tablecloths, and everything was very nice.
Oh my God, the nerves that I had. I was like all butterflies in my stomach.
After all the hard times, Emely finally attained the happiness she deserved. A great man, an exciting wedding, all the festivities. This was her moment to finally find happiness.
The warm sounds of two loving families coming together wafts from the house and yard. But at 3:05 a.m., Monticello police get a call about a multiple shooting. The address? Manuel and Emely's home. Once on site, they see a man with a shoulder wound yelling in Spanish. It's the groom's brother, Jose. He'll make it. In the backyard, they find another man down. He has multiple gunshot wounds. It's hard to believe, but it's the groom-to-be, Manuel. Inside, the woman he was about to marry, Emely, shot in the face and arm. She's in shock from her injuries and the realization that her dreams have collapsed on the eve of her wedding.
I couldn't believe this was happening. I couldn't believe that anybody would do something like this.
No one can understand. How is this possible? Just hours before the wedding of a couple who had worked so hard to get to this place in their lives. Emely grows up in a loving home, but in a tough part of the Bronx. In 1986, her stepdad moves the family to the quiet, safe town of Monticello, 2 hours west of New York City. But the peaceful surroundings don't necessarily mean an easy life for Emely. By her late 20s, she's delighted to have 3 kids. Unfortunately, her relationships haven't worked out. And the latest man in her life turned out to be abusive, dangerous to her and her kids. She blames herself, as abused women sometimes do.
I was so down and out that I didn't care. I would think about my kids and I would think, You know what, they'll be better off without me. They don't need me. I'm such a weakling. I'm a nobody.
That's the low self-esteem talking. Those are the remnants of the abuse. Abusive relationships are damaging not only physically, and in fact more so psychologically. It beats up your self-esteem, beats up your sense of self-worth.
I felt that I was just sinking more and more. That's when I started going to church.
Church becomes her only source of comfort. Maybe there she can find what she needs. Manuel Saldana is a carpenter from Ecuador, soft-spoken, methodical, and with plans for a solid future. In 1987, he also moved from New York City to Monticello to pursue steady work, rehabbing houses.
He looked for what life had to offer him, and he trusted himself. I'm not saying that he was a dreamer, but he had real dreams. He had dreams with a purpose, and he had dreams with a quality of life.
He wanted a family, the American dream. Come to America, have a family, build a future. You know, he wanted to open his own business, which he was starting at that point. He was picking up a lot of clients.
Even more important than Manuel's work is his faith. He attends the same church as Emely. And when he sees her there, he immediately takes note of the quiet young woman sitting silently in the back.
I would come in and I would go into a corner and just look out the window so nobody would see my face or anything. But every time I kind of looked, I could see him looking at me.
All religions, no matter what the religion is, support families. So to find a guy in the church is great, because it's a given that the family life is the thing that's expected in the church.
But she's just not looking right now. And he senses not to push it.
He's a person who is not concerned about trivial things. It's about people, love, family, God, and community, not about worldly riches. And you saw that in his everyday activities, dealing with people.
He was a very important person in the church. He was there all the time. And he would teach Sunday school classes.
He also volunteers to drive the church bus. Emily's mother notices a subtle connection between the two. Like a good, sneaky mom with the right instinct, she makes her move. She begins inviting him to Sunday family dinners to spend time with her grandkids, and Emely.
So I would go to my mom's house on Sunday, and he would be there, but I didn't talk to him at that time. I would just stay away. So my mom knew him more than I did.
I love the sneaky grandma. Emily's mother saw that Manuel was a catch. She knew what was right for her daughter, but she couldn't push them together. He became her friend, the mom's friend, not Emily's. It was great, it was perfect. I love this woman.
Emely notices Manuel's sincerity with others and gradually begins to think, maybe they could be together someday. But now she's living a nightmare, bleeding and worried about her kids and fiancé. She's desperate to know what happened to Manuel, but detectives don't want to send her deeper into shock and don't tell her that her groom is gone.
She had a lot going on there, and we were just trying to, at this point, determine who had caused all this mayhem here and contain the crime scene.
With 3 people down and a gunman on the loose, police must act fast to find out who is responsible for this wedding eve shooting, why they blasted away like this, and where they are now. In Monticello, New York, 3 people are shot the night before a wedding. Police learn it was a lone gunman, and he fled into the nearby woods. Everyone fears he'll return for more blood.
There was still a lot of confusion. They said he had left, but we don't know exactly where he left, how he left, which direction he had left.
Police fan out, slowly, wary of an ambush, but determined to find the shooter. Though shot twice, bride-to-be Emely will survive. But Manuel lies motionless in the backyard.
When we went back out there, you could tell he was already deceased. There was absolutely no movement, no pulse, no nothing.
He's dead. Just hours before he was to wed his dream girl.
Sad to see. I mean, somebody lost their life that night. I mean, it's a terrible thing. You know, somebody that was somebody's brother and somebody's future husband is dead.
Emely fears the worst, but at first no one will tell her what's going on with Manuel.
But when the police came and I heard that D-O-A, it sounded like very slow, D-O-A. Oh my God, I felt like if my soul was gonna come out. Because I knew what that meant, and I knew that he was gone, and I couldn't do anything. I wanted to see him. I couldn't believe it, I couldn't. He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it.
Emely's kind and thoughtful fiancé, the future father of her children, is gone. No one could have imagined an ending like this. When just 2 years earlier, the couple was slowly beginning to connect. Her mother sets up dinners they both attend. Manuel can see that Emely is a wounded soul.
One time, he came up to me, he tells me, "What happened to you?" And I looked at him and I really wanted to say none of your business, but I'm like, oh, you know, I'm going through a bad relationship, and, you know, I started talking to him. I felt that confidence in him that I started talking to him at that time.
I'll be here when you need it.
He gently explains that he understands. He grew up in an abusive home. He lets her share at her own pace. Slowly, her heart begins to thaw. Despite her defensive instincts, she just can't find anything wrong with Manuel.
He had so much life in him, and he would just give whatever he could to help anybody. It didn't matter who. If he saw somebody who needed something, if you need $2, $3, you want to eat something, let's call. He'll buy it for you. You know, he was a good person.
The nicest man in town.
Oh, no, Father. We're just friends. Okay. We're just friends, Father. Just good friends.
Great.
Emely and Manuel see each other often, but always in group settings, mostly at the church.
I told him, you know, let's go slow. Let's see what happens. Let's give me time. And that's what he did. He gave me the time I needed.
It sounds crazy, but you know, when you're used to abuse, having someone give you genuine affection sometimes feels terrifying. This is uncharted territory. So she's questioning how much she can let her guard down. Is it safe to feel close and be emotionally intimate with somebody? That's the thing she flirts with in her mind as Manuel gently, slowly tries to draw her heart out.
They share more about their pasts. Emely confides that she's been hurt so often, she has a hard time trusting. She tells Manuel her last boyfriend, a guy named Eusebio, was possessive and confrontational.
He didn't want me to better myself. He got mad because I started going to school. When I went to work, he was like, oh, who's your boyfriend? I want to see who you're working with, who you're messing around with over there.
Manuel tells Emily he will always encourage her and treat her with respect. And he has a story of his own. His heart was recently broken by his last girlfriend, Maribel.
You and I need to talk.
Back then, he thought he wanted to marry her.
And I told my mom, he's moving too fast for me. Because at that point, I really wasn't ready for marriage, you know. So I told him, let's be friends. You know, I'm not ready for this.
Manuel takes the breakup hard.
And that hurt me even more because he was a good guy, but I knew that I wasn't ready for that commitment that he was ready for.
It's okay.
Manuel and Emily help each other find peace of mind. And with each passing week, she becomes more convinced that Manuel is the real deal, and not like other men she's known. She begins to trust again.
You know, this is a nice guy. You know, he's never hit anybody. He's never talked bad to anybody. And that's what made me say, maybe I'll give him a chance.
Emily was exposed to violence. This is part of her wiring of what is kind of a normal relationship. Manuel was the one who helped her rewire her brain, who helped her relearn that you don't take abuse. Over time, he gave her consistent love, respect, and affection. And after a while, she came to accept that and understand that that is love.
Manuel also forms close bonds with Emily's mother and her 3 kids.
My kids just click. They just like, wherever Manuel went, they went. He loved them.
And you know, kids are a good litmus test. If kids don't like somebody, you better trust that gut instinct with children. But they loved Manuel because he was a true good guy.
But now, Manuel lies dead in his backyard, the night before his dreams were to come true. And the killer is still out there. Was it a planned attack on the groom from an enemy no one knew of? Or a random sniper, some shadowy madman picking off strangers? Police scramble to track the gunman in the dense woods before he strikes again. It takes Emily Rodriguez 2 years to learn to trust again before she's ready to marry Manuel Saldana. But the night before the wedding, Manuel is murdered. His brother and Emily shot. Witnesses say the gunman fled into the darkness.
We knew we had left the immediate backyard, but it was a wood line back there, and we could still be in there watching us or getting ready to take a shot at someone else.
Police search the woods behind the house. Is he out there, aiming his rifle at them, ready to fire? Carefully, they clear each section of the woods.
We kept on clearing further and further till we knew that we contained the actual area and he was gone.
Clear!
But where did he go? And why did he do this awful thing to this happy couple? A year earlier, as they began to date, Emily explains why she's so cautious, sharing more about her troubling past. And her last boyfriend, Eusebio Torres, who grew increasingly possessive and violent.
Why are you doing this again? You always like this.
I got beat up really, really bad. I couldn't even get up from the floor. When I looked at my face, I'm like, oh, Jesus, what am I gonna do?
It doesn't end. Abusers don't give up. And they don't care if they're arrested, and they don't care if the police are after them. They don't care about an order of protection. They don't care.
The woman feels trapped because she literally thinks, if I just don't make him mad, I mean, if I could just be a good person, he'll stop hitting me. So she stays inside, trapped in the system, the cycle of domestic violence.
But Emely did things right. She saw the signs and left him to break that cycle.
It's a very difficult thing to do, and Emely did it. She persevered.
Manuel promises he will protect her.
Manuel would always tell me, I'm not gonna let anything happen to you. You're with me now, so don't worry about it. I felt safe with him.
But Monticello is a small town. And it's hard for Emely to completely avoid her ex, who obviously has not moved on.
He came by my mom's house one time. I'm like, Mom, look out the window. She's like, oh my God, Emely.
Her mom calls for help.
He gave me that grin. I mean, I know where you're at. I'm following you. And I'm never gonna forget that face, that look. His eyes were the same, evil. Then they would just like pop out. And that grin on his face. Oh. Sometimes when I sleep, I could see that face.
That night, Eusebio slinks away without harming her, luckily. As Emely spends more time with Manuel, her ex seems to stop stalking her. After dating nearly a year, Manuel takes Emely out for a romantic dinner.
Excuse me.
She can tell something's up.
Can I please have all of the roses?
We were talking. He bought me flowers and said, I need to ask you something. And I'm like, what is it?
You would make me so happy if you would marry me.
And I'm like, I couldn't say, the words couldn't come out because I'm like, you sure you want to marry me? I mean, I have 3 kids. She says, whatever it takes just to have you. And then I said, let me think about it.
Take all the time you need.
He doesn't press. He knows her. She needs a little time.
That gave her a little bit of control. And the fact that he allowed that, she was able to say, wow, this is a really cool guy. He respects me.
So then after the dinner, I said, all right, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's get married then.
The couple plan for an April wedding, and Emely and her children move into Manuel's place. It's not long before he makes this house feel like a home.
Why don't you guys go upstairs and pick out your rooms?
He added personal touches such as paneling with like flowers or something that made it warm and charming. It was made with a lot of love, made with the idea of having family, made with the idea of life.
Emely works long hours as a nurse's assistant, and Manuel makes sure she feels loved.
And every night that I came home, there was something new. And one time I came in and there was flowers all over the living room. I'm like, oh my God, what did you do? What did you do? He's like, oh, this is for you. I wanna make you happy. Another day he had the bath already, so when I came home from work, I went straight into the bathtub with flowers in the water. It was something different all the time, and I loved it.
He's so kind, devoted, so unlike what she's used to.
Once she did allow herself to feel loved again, she blossomed. She went from lower self-esteem to the queen of her house, to have a guy who constantly showed his affection towards her. He didn't have an ulterior motive. He wasn't trying to control her or manipulate her. He was just in love with her, and he wanted to make sure she knew it.
I think I needed that, somebody that I could trust and somebody who I could say, this is good. I could feel it, you know? There was a chemistry.
Emely counts her blessings each day as she and Manuel prep for the wedding.
It wasn't like it was all on me and it was all on him. We did everything together.
Then one day, while out doing errands, Emely runs into her ex-boyfriend, Eusebio Torres. But this time, Manuel is with her.
When we saw him at the store, I was afraid. And he's like, no, I'm gonna go talk to him.
Manuel wants to show Emely he really is there for her.
Manuel, he had the Lord behind him, you know. He wasn't afraid because he knew that it was all talk. So when he went and faced Eusebio, I was like, you know, I want you to leave her alone. She's with me now. We're gonna get married, you know. I don't want any problems with you.
Eusebio backs down when faced with someone his own size.
And Manuel said, oh, he's all talk. He's not gonna bother you.
As the wedding date nears, excitement builds. But Emely doesn't have that special gown. Then one of Manuel's dear friends steps in with a kind offer.
I want Manuel to be married with a beautiful girl with a long white dress. I had a beautiful white dress, my daughter's wedding dress, and I said, would you take this dress?
Emely gratefully accepts the dress and begins adding a few personal touches to make it truly hers.
So I cut it through the sides, put some trimmings on it, and every night when I came home, I went fix something on the dress. And one step at a time, and it took a long time. It took almost a month before I had the dress completely finished.
As the dress nears completion, Emely models it for her mother.
Oh, she loved it. She's like, oh, you're gonna shine. It's like a princess. You look like Snow White. It was a really nice dress.
But then Manuel arrives, and in a break from tradition, sees her in the dress.
I'm like, it's bad luck. You can't see the dress. He's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's not gonna give me bad luck.
Was it a bad omen? Some think so.
I had a feeling, it was just a feeling that something just didn't feel right. And it was more as the wedding got closer.
But Emely is undaunted by superstition. She and Manuel press forward to their wedding day, unaware of what is coming toward them through the darkness.
Anyone there?
After so much hope for a new future, Emely and Manuel's world has come crashing down.
That was one of the most chaotic scenes I've ever been in. They were screaming from everyone. Very, very hysterical.
The shooter disappeared into the night with a hunting rifle. Has he moved on to kill again? The terror of that night lies in cruel contrast to Emely and Manuel's life just before the wedding. A week before the big day, Emely gets a call from a friend who happens to be the sister of her ex-boyfriend, Eusebio Torres.
And she tells me, Emma, I want you to come to the house. And I'm like, okay. And she tells me, all right, but come by yourself. I'm like, what's going on here? So when I went over there, she opened the door, and he came out from the kitchen. And my heart just dropped. I was so scared. And his sister tells me, don't worry, he's not gonna do anything. He just wants to tell you something.
She wants to run.
He had that look on his face. Every time he hit me, his eyes like popped out, and the smile on his face was like an evil smile.
He says he only wants to apologize for mistreating her.
And he says, I'm leaving to Florida. I'm never gonna bother you again. You don't have to worry about me.
That was a very strange event, that Eusebio would use his sister to lure her into his presence. Was he really just trying to exert his control one last time? I'm close, and I can get you to me if I need to.
And I said to myself, I have to leave. I have to leave because something's not right. And I just walked out.
Bye.
And I just kept going.
Hoping Eusebio really is finally gone, the couple tries to put the incident behind them. They have happier things to focus on. The night before the wedding, Manuel's excitement nearly bubbles over.
He looked happy. He realized that he had a lot of friends. That was a special occasion for him.
Sí, estuvo muy contento.
Yes, he was very happy. As a matter of fact, when I got to Monticello that night, he took me around to show me everything he had done to the house, how he fixed it up, everything. It was gorgeous.
And I'm like, oh my God, the day's coming, and I'm not finished with the dress. The day's coming, and I'm not finished with the souvenirs. You know, where are the invitations? I didn't even get the invitations. Did you send them out? Did you do this? It was like crazy.
The aroma of the coming feast fills the house as the decorations are finalized. Finally, at about 3 a.m., Emely is wrapping up for the night.
Everything was done, and I was washing the dishes.
Suddenly, the motion sensor lights in the yard go on. She sees someone near the woods.
And I got scared, and I just took 2 steps back, and I told Manuel, he's outside, he's outside, he's out there.
We're gonna go check it out, okay?
And he's like, what? So Manuel said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll go outside.
When
Emely said, there's someone walking out there, we went out the door.
Jose puts down a full beer, and the groom and his brother search the yard.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
They don't see anyone. But when Jose comes back, the beer is almost empty. Could it have been some teens looking to score booze from the party? They tell Emely it's nothing, so she heads back inside. Then, the motion sensor lights come back on. They're not alone in the yard. The brothers head back toward the woodline. Then, without warning, it's Eusebio Torres.
When I felt the first bullet hit me, I kept running. But while I was running, I felt another bullet hit me in the waist.
Jose runs to safety, but Manuel doesn't get far.
No.
I didn't even have time to move anywhere when I felt the first shot. And that was right on my face.
A second bullet hits Emely in the forearm. The house erupts in terror and confusion.
This guy was determined that if it was the last thing he did, he would control Emely and punish her for leaving him. This is her worst nightmare. She got away from this guy, and there he was. There's his face, with a gun in his hand, on her wedding eve.
Emely tells police the shooter was her ex-boyfriend, and she gives them his photo.
We wanted to make sure that we got him quickly. He had just shot 3 different people, killing one of them. We weren't sure if he was gonna shoot other people as well, if he was going to shoot a police officer. He was a dangerous guy.
They have to find him before he flees town. They believe him to be armed, extremely dangerous, and ready to kill again. They will be right on all 3 counts. Manuel Saldana has been murdered, and his bride-to-be, Emely Rodriguez, shot by her abusive ex, Eusebio Torres, who struck as the couple decorated their home for their wedding reception.
It was a place that had been violently interrupted. People in that house had spent the evening hanging pink decorations and pink crepe paper and bunting and moving tables and setting up buffet. It's the most optimistic thing in the world, a wedding and decorating for a wedding. And Eusebio fell like a guillotine on that. It's stunningly heartbreaking.
The night has become surreal.
I felt like I was in a nightmare. It all happened so fast, and since the time that I saw him through the window, I knew something was gonna happen, but I didn't know that he had a gun.
Her worst fears have been realized. Eusebio kept his promise to control her forever.
And he told me, if you're not gonna be with me, you're not gonna be with anybody else. I said, I'd rather be dead than to be with you. And if that's gonna be the case, well, so be it.
She knew he was violent, but never expected he would commit a massacre on the eve of her wedding.
He was out of control and psychotic. It was the wedding. It was the wedding that made Eusebio snap, absolutely snap, because this was the thing that said he would never get her back.
At the hospital, doctors stitch up Emily's face. The same face that was supposed to have been adorned with wedding day kisses from her new husband.
I was just more concerned about Manuel. I wanted to see him, and they wouldn't let me see him.
Her dear Manuel had kept his promise to stand between her and danger, and he paid the ultimate price. Though she couldn't have predicted the shooting, she still blames herself for underestimating Eusebio's rage.
If I knew he had a gun, I wouldn't have let Manuel go out there. I would have called the cops right away. If, you know, you think about things afterwards, and you can't change the past. It kills you because you could repeat it in your mind 1,000 times, and you still get the same answer.
One of the most frustrating things about this story, and one of the most horrifying, is that Emily seemed to have done everything right, that she took the abuse seriously, and she did call the police, and she did tell friends that he was violent, and she broke up with him. He still didn't go away. He didn't stop until he had ended it all.
Now police have to find Torres and take him down. With an address on file, they race to his apartment.
We weren't sure if he was there. We weren't sure if he was gonna flee the country. We weren't sure. But the next step, logical step, was to take a look at his house.
They surround the apartment, securing the perimeter. Is he in there?
I knew he was armed. I knew he was, had no problem shooting people. I don't know if there was any people inside the apartment, taking a hostage or whatever it might be. The circumstances need to be dealt with right away.
They breach the door, hoping he won't try to go out in a hail of bullets.
Larry!
But Torres is no longer a threat.
The head was slumped. At that time, you could see the blood coming out of his head. It was code red right there.
He's dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. He left no suicide note, but the TV has been shot out. Had he seen his reflection and fired?
He must have known he was going to be caught. maybe he was beginning to realize what he had done and how irretrievable his life had become in those moments.
News of the tragedy spreads fast. The entire community aches over the loss of Manuel Saldana.
I was very devastated. I was like, why is he gone? There's bad people out there in the world, and good people that can make a change are gone. Like, I still couldn't understand it. Like, why? Why him? From all people, why him?
Mourners fill the church at his funeral.
Yeah, I was just numb. All I could feel was my tears coming down. I couldn't say anything. I combed his hair the way he liked it, and I looked at him and I gave him kisses, and people were looking at me like I'm crazy, and it was a really rough time.
Manuel's death devastates Emely and her kids.
I mourned for him for almost 5 years after he died. I held on to the dress, I held on to all the souvenirs, all the invitations that were left. Everything was in the box the same way when it happened. So I would not get rid of it for nothing. Those were my memories. Nobody could touch them.
Eventually, as Manuel would have wanted it, Emely finds a new love and marries. Manuel's loved ones still feel his spirit.
Oh, sí, sí lo sé.
Oh, yes. Yes, I feel it very much. Because he was an excellent brother and a very, very good person.
I feel that he's waiting for me up there. He and my mom, they're both waiting for me. But I know that he's gonna be the first one on the door when I walk in through heaven's door. He's gonna be right there, and I'm gonna be able to see him and thank him for what he did. You know? That'll be the day that I'll be happy. Just to be able to see him again. Our faith say that they're all waiting for us up there, and I can't wait for that day.